this is a nice little exercise I like doing, showing you Quasar. It's kind of a nice user interface framework. Follows good material design patterns. Very flexible to use, and I think it's the most compatible with Vue 3 Composition API right now. I think it's the most comprehensive, so that's why I prefer to use this for my clients and stuff like that. I'll just show you a little bit of the key advantages of using the script setup tag within the composition API and refactoring the code so that you're not just calling the setup function, you're actually putting the whole thing in the setup tag and not losing the functionality and refactoring to make the code a lot more readable and efficient. So let's just start the exercise. So I'm going to npm init quasar. Let's just call this Quasar demo. And run it with Vite. And just leave all that. So you'll have composition API is recommended. So what it'll do is it'll write it out using the setup tags. Well, the setup function, not the setup tags. We're gonna write with the setup tags, and you'll see the advantage with that. So prettier, yes, use npm, and then you just wait. So I'm going to open up this Quasar demo while waiting for that to finish. And now it's done. So Quasar demo and Quasar dev. So basically the exercise, the goal of this is just, refactor it in a way that you don't lose any functionality. Like it does the same thing functionally that I was doing before. But it's also done using the setup script tag. So whenever you click on a to do, that number increments, just like it's supposed to. So leave it like that for now, refreshing the screen, and we'll go to the first thing, the app.view. So you'll see define component is what you have to use when your script by default runs as options API. So when you write setup, it all goes within the composition API, and you can get rid of all this. You don't have to write all of that. Nice. So the second thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the pages, index page, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna write setup and see what we can get rid of here. Of course, we can get rid of the function, the call for the components object within the export default, define component function. You can get rid of that. The import, and you can get rid of this. You don't have to return it because once you specify the types, you don't have to return anymore. That's the advantage of using the setup tag. So the code's much cleaner now. Error not found. You can do a setup. Beautiful. just like that. And now we have layouts, main layout. So here, it's a little interesting because you have an array of objects that fall in line with the type of the prop that's in essential link. So there's a prop on the essential link component that falls in line with this object. So you'll see how the setup takes advantage of that. So I don't have to write all of that now. I can get rid of all of this. I can get rid of the defined component call because we don't need that anymore. And now it's just constant left drawer open, essential links, links list. You actually don't need the return object anymore. You do still need the toggle left drawer function, but you can write it in E6. And by default, that'll return void, but you don't have to specify all of that. Type inference gives you an advantage, and the key advantage is that as long as the function is relatively simple, it'll actually infer whether it's a void return or whether you're actually returning a specific type. And that's kind of nice right there. So just save that. And yeah, a lot cleaner now. Now you just have the array with the objects, the array of objects, and constant, and a constant toggle left drawer, which is now an arrow function. So now let's go to the components. So you have an example component here. It's a little interesting the way that it's set up here. There's two functions that you kind of have to make in order to be able to return it in the component, and that's kind of the disadvantage with Options API, like writing setup the function within the Options API. So it's better to just write it like this throughout the whole, to have a setup script tag. And you can see what the advantage is right here. This setup props no longer necessary, actually. You can get rid of that. And you'll see these two functions are no longer necessary either. You can get rid of those. And this return as well. And this return to do count. And you can just have the function by itself. Now, we are going to have to make the props, but because there's a default, there are a few steps you have to follow when it comes to default props. So you have to actually create an interface which will define the object. So title string to-dos, and then this is just to-do, the to-do array. Meta, which is just a meta object, and active. So if you want to make this particular object within the prop optional, you'd put a question mark after the name just before the colon. But in this case, they're all mandatory props. So now what you do after, in order to be able to use this, is you define constant props as with the compile macro with defaults. And then define props is your first argument, which is defined as the props interface object that you just made. And then your defaults are defined here, your default object basically. So you have to-dos. So that's your first one. And yeah, it's the only one actually. So now you just have props, to-dos, get rid of that. And then you have your props, to-dos, lengths. It's kind of computed there. So you don't actually need to call it anymore. Oh, my bad. Excuse me. There we go. So now you can just call the other objects like this. So top title and props dot meta and oh wait, actually should be like this. And get rid of prop type there. And just save it. Just like that. Listen to half the code. And yeah, that's, just a beautiful example right there of what can be done with the script setup tag. And the last example right here, you have setup. You get rid of export defined, the defined component, all of this, and you don't need to import that anymore. So now you're just working on the prop itself. So once again, you create interface, to define the props object. And then link. And then icon. And constant props equals with defaults. And yeah, you have three elements within your props object, your default object. So you have type, you have link, and then you have icon. You can get rid of all of that. And then just call each item within your object. Props.title, props.caption, props.link, props.icon. Once again, less than half of the code. And yeah, that's the advantage of using the script setup tag within and having the whole script tag fall under the composition API. Just makes the code so much cleaner, so much better. And we can go out and actually see if it works the same way it was working before. Yep, same way. Yeah, that's the advantage you get. I hope this video was helpful to people, trying to learn. And yeah, one last thing, actually, you can get rid of this hash thing because it's under hash mode right now, which is what will work for browsers by default. But with the little configuration of the Apache, it's cleaner and it just kind of looks better, and it's also better for SEO. So you go to the config option, Quasar config, and you just switch from hash to history by going here. And then just like that. Yeah. You'll end up with it being in history mode instead of hash mode for your view router. And yeah, that'll be just better for SEO. So, and yeah, it looks better. So, yeah, that's everything. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope that it encourages you to use the script setup tag a lot more and to take full advantage of the compositional API over what was in View 2 with the Options API. You still have the lifecycle hooks you can use on before mounted, on mounted, things like that. You don't have to, like, it's the future. So switching over to this and refactoring your code to this, or just when you write a new project altogether, I encourage you to use this to save time. So that's it. Yeah. Have a good one.